Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome back to the Daily Southampton, part of the Global Sports Podcast Network. My name is Greg Elliott, and today I'm joined by the full Southampton team. How are we all doing after a nice, refreshing weekend without having to watch Saints? Oscar, how you doing?
Yeah, good. All good, thanks. You?
I'm feeling good. And Zach, you feeling odd to feel like this on a Sunday, right? Not had your weekend ruined completely by Saints.
Not having my weekend ruined by Saints has been nice. It's good to see that Garner got the win over the weekend
Yeah.
from a boxing perspective. That was really nice. Local lad. Yeah. I guess it's refreshing to not get excited and then be absolutely crushed by the end of the day. Doesn't mean I don't miss it, mind you.
And there is plenty of time to get right back into that positive headspace before we face our obvious win at the weekend against Liverpool. But until we get around to that, we have got some free wildcard time to have some fun with our episodes. And today we're going to revisit an old favourite. We're going to go back to some Room 101. So for those young enough to not remember, Room 101 was an old comedy show on the BBC, hosted, I think, by Frank Skinner, where I think there was a more modern iteration than that, but I'm not having it, where people would bring their items to talk out why they want to get rid of them from life, and then someone decides if they go into Room 101 or not. And yeah, that's how we're going to go. So we're just going to get straight to it. We've all got plenty. Gonna preface at the start that we've banned any talk of VAR. We talk about referees enough on this podcast to step away for it for a minute and try and poach out some of the even weirder stuff in football. So, Oscar, let's go to you first. What's your first point for Room 101?
It's more of a sort of, I don't know if it's like a double negative, but teams taking away goal music. And obviously Southampton have added it back this year, and I love it. I think it's class. Like Norwich, whenever they score and they play the Spanish music, and I personally really like it. So that's my first one I'm going to start off with. Bit random, but
Yeah, I like that. Thoughts, Zach?
Yeah, nice. Agreed.
Yeah, no, I think that's a real solid start. Zach, go on then.
Mm-hmm.
Throw your first option into the mix.
As a mainly football watcher on the old telly box screen things, I've already discussed, I think, in a previous episode, the blackout rule, because I thought it was ridiculous. But a thing that has effectively made my Sky Sports only subscription absolutely useless is just the sheer amount of football that is on multiple channels at this point. The fact that you need to be subscribed to TNT, Sky, Amazon, talk of potentially in the future even Netflix, it's just ridiculous. It's annoying for everybody. It means that I'm not allowed Sky Sports anymore, and not because it's one of the main reasons that I managed to sell it to my partner and my wonderful wife is that the idea that I'd be watching, I've used it for NFL more than actual football because I can't watch actual football on it because there's the odd game here and there, but because we don't have the TNT package, I miss out on about 50% of the game that Saints are on anyway. And it's really weird to me that if you live abroad, you could just sign up to a package to watch all of football and just watch all of football. But for some reason, for UK viewers, it needs to be, you need to sign up to the full sports package in Sky, and then you need to pay £40 a month for TNT, £40 a month for Sky Sports. Don't forget your Boxing Day watches of Amazon Prime. It just kind of gets to a point where you're like, wow, you're pricing people out of watching it at home as well as the stadiums. Like, you're going to end up, it's absolutely insane to me that the sort of expectation on football fans, both in their own homes and outside of their own homes, is just absolutely insane. So I would very, very much like there just to be the football channel. I know that's not how it's going to work. That's what I want.
We're on the precipice of, as a country, to take a slightly political stance where all of these streaming services need to remember that they only exist because they're slightly more convenient than pirating things. So it's only a matter of time before the Premier League, in its infinite wisdom, comes out with their version of the Premier League.
Just get on with it. Just get on with it. That way we can have multiple commentary teams that aren't just the singular ones that we get stuck with for each particular game.
I bet the price point's absolutely disgusting for a year's subscription to Premier League. I would be very surprised if it's not on like a pay-by-game basis as well, right? Like,
so what I'm hearing is that I'm doomed either way.
Got to make the money.
How do you feel about it, Oscar?
I wouldn't worry too much about it. We won't be having to pay for the Premier League one for much.
Yeah, you're right. It might actually get better. And as one of the quote-unquote more exciting championship teams, we did get the first sort of season I had Sky Sports. I was able to get far more use out of it. But this season's been...
Next season, they're showing something like 900 EFL games on Sky Sports, so you'll probably get a 70% hit rate on being able to watch Saints. They're just selling points.
Do I want that at this point, though? Depends if you're going to get any better. That's an argument for another time. But yeah. I guess what the actual answer is, broadcast agreed. And that is never going away unless I change the human psyche. But I think we can all agree if it was possible, we would get rid of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
So watch slightly more football for slightly less cost.
That's all I actually want. If it was, I'm happy to pay like 40, 50 quid a month if I get to watch at least all of the games for my terrible team.
Okay. Well, look, as well as being famed for being the optimist, I'm sure some of our listeners will know that I have some notorious opinions. But I'm going to come back and save my first, maybe not that wild opinion. I do have a really wild one, but I'm saving it for the end after a message from our partners at Bioniq.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now. Your body is unique.
And we're back. Okay, so I'm going to go with my safer one first, and save my outlandish one to after. But cutting holes in the back of your socks as a player.
I've got the same one. I've got that as well.
I know that it's a tiny thing, but it winds me up. Like, it's just so wasteful. There's no way you're reusing that pair of socks.
And I just don't understand why. What does it benefit?
And
compression, right? I think is the argument.
Yeah, I suppose it's compression, but yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's nonsense. But also, why hasn't any sock manufacturer seen this and just
made them with holes in them?
Pre-cut socks. We've got ripped jeans as a thing. Pre-cut football socks is surely only half
they have
a
it as
season
well.
away.
From a coaching perspective, I work with a lot of local players in sort of grassroots environments, and they obviously all want to copy it as well. And as a manager of a grassroots team, it's an absolute nightmare because you're constantly having to rebuy socks, not just cutting the backs and holes, cutting the feet off the bottom so they can wear grip socks. It's just absolute carnage. I really don't understand, certainly the holes thing. Mental.
Yeah.
Is it a symptom of there's just where the game's going in the sense of years ago? And I'm not saying I can understand why you have separate shirts for each game and stuff like that. But when you start to think about sort of just the waste that's produced, if you had to have your own shirt and take it home and wash it every day, I think it would be extremely humbling. But the idea that you couldn't just get a new pair of socks, you put on your socks the next game and you pull them up and all of a sudden because they got holes in they rip and then you just kind of have to deal with it. Yeah. And again, or if you're not going to do that, just make them with cuts in them already. Like, you could have them stitched or even adjustable. You could have little zips on them. Just something that's a bit more like conscious of like we have all of these inventions.
I think you're taking a step into something I hate even more. If we're going to fashionize football socks,
I'm not saying fashionize football socks. I'm saying, like, well, for starters, mate, you're so far behind that with boots anyway. Like, you know, boots aren't all just like one regular colour. It's not like you're forced to have like a club standard pair of boots. Maybe that's an idea, to be perfectly honest. But like,
that would upset so many people.
Oh yeah, but also it'd be good for sponsorships for each club. And all I can think of is, was it Cucurella who had that problem with his socks, with his boots, and threw him in the bin after he like had a dodgy half.
Yeah,
but it's one of those things. It's not from a fashion perspective. It's just like it's making sustainable products that are adjustable, that are useful for sports players, rather than putting on your pair of socks and then just immediately cutting them, getting into the changing room, and then it's like sort of resolves a problem where you don't need to put them in the wash. You just chuck them straight in the bin, and it's like, man, come on, guys, you're earning tons of money. Don't you think you can just throw stuff away? Anyway,
no, I hate it, and I want it to stop. And you're right, especially from the grassroots level. So that must be an absolute disaster.
Yeah, carnage.
Okay, so gonna go back round the table. We've had our first one. Some fantastic opinions. Oscar, I'm going to throw back to you.
Yeah, I think this one will be. I think this one's a fairly obvious one. But I noticed it the other day. I went with a friend of mine earlier in the season to watch Saints Liverpool, and he wanted to come off and meet the players at the end. All the players, bear in mind they just won 3-2, walked straight past all the fans, shouting and screaming, got straight back on the coach. Like, for me, that is pathetic. Like, if you've lost and you're getting absolutely battered, fair enough. I sort of understand it. But yeah, so getting on the coach without even acknowledging the fans, or just walking past with your headphones in and your Louis Vuitton wash bag, take 5 minutes out to
yeah.
Zach. Stay humbly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement with that. I kind of find it. I can understand if you've had a tough game, and I can understand, but it's one of those things where it's part of the job, and you kind of, I think, if you want to get into football at a professional level, whether you like it or not, unfortunately, part of that job description now is like role model.
Yeah,
and I think that you have to accept that that's going to be a thing, and like, don't be how do I put it without swearing about it? It's like when you hear those stories about people like Roy Keane being like, oh, well, I don't want to meet fans and this and that. It's just like, bruh, you guys are paid so much money. Like, these people consider you to be their absolute heroes. Sometimes you just want to meet them, have a conversation with them. You don't know the difference that makes in a person's life. And yeah, I get it, but it's part of your day, like, job, right? If I had an 8-hour day, which is my shift, I consider that to be part of my work day. I don't consider that to be, and I think that maybe they should think about it a bit more. And I can understand, like, from a human perspective as well, these people aren't machines, but also, like, just do it. Just stop being a wetbag about it. Go and wave to the kid and sign an autograph. It's not hard.
Yeah, they need to accept that the reason they're paid as much money as they are is because it is entertainment, and that's what comes with entertainment. You go and you shake their hands and just 10 minutes of effort, and that's
I especially think for an away game as well. Like, Southampton are pretty good. I don't go and travel and see them away that often, but at home they'll always come out the back and go to their cars and usually stop. You get the occasional one that sneaks out, and to be fair, actually, I had it at the Russell Martin charity game. That was a bit disappointing as well, because that is, you see players that you haven't seen for ages, and some of them sneak out the back and quickly jump in their car and drive off. But for Liverpool fans that have travelled all the way down to Southampton just for a 2-minute little, and I know it's as you said, it's the end of their working day and they probably can't be bothered. It's the last thing they want to do, and I understand, like, being out in public, that's different. I don't think, like, you should have to give up their time out in public if they're with their families and things. But in that situation, surely that's part of it. It's what you get the big bucks for.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And I will say, Saints are normally pretty good. We stayed behind a couple of times with my kids, and we've got signed shirts galore and all sorts in the house because of it. But
Yeah, and just on that as well, having not to go massively into it, but having 2 team coaches as well is nuts, which Liverpool had on that night. That's crazy too.
Okie doke. I'm going to come to you next, Zach, as a warning, but before that, a message from our partners at Zencastr. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform, and Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description and learn more about Zencastr. Okie doke. Over to you, Zach. What's your second entry to Room 101?
I upset people last time. When I say I upset people, I don't think so. I actually think a lot of people agreed with me with just you deleting the entirety of the Saudi Arabian League. Because, quite frankly, it's ruined the transfer market forever, and it's taking probably fantastic players away to play in front of 40 people to get paid something like £20 billion a week. But this one is one of the ones that I often think about, and I think it is making rules, is in FIFA making rules more transparent about the ability for players to change their national team. If, for example, I know that they're quite decent with it. Like if you've represented somebody in the under-21s, but say you get like 10 caps for England at 18, and then all of a sudden it's decided that no one likes you again, but you're a dual national with like the Dutch team, and you start to get really good later on, and then England, for whatever reason, don't want to pick you back up, and you can't just switch to the Dutch team. And I think that it would make things far more exciting. It makes people far more accepting, and it's understanding that people have dual heritage and you can want to represent 2 countries at once, not just forcing someone into a box of, well, you've played for this one team once and you should have to go. And that's proper rambling, that is. But it's one of those things where I think that people are well too harsh when people switch national allegiances and act like it's do or die, when I think, and I understand, and we're all football fans, and we obviously probably all support England, I'm assuming, at like the Euros and all that kind of stuff. But it's also like being the way that people are about, like, well, he played for Ireland in the under-21s and now he's moved over and, disgraceful, shouldn't be allowed near it. And then they get a lot of stick for switching and stuff. And I think it should just be like, nah, actually, there's a lot of people with multiple heritages. And if they don't make it in a national team, and they should be frozen out forever because they played like a couple of games when they were like 21 because it was in the senior team, right? Like, yeah, I just think that we should allow people to represent multiple parts of their heritage if they want to. Like if you're somebody who has Moroccan heritage and French heritage and you played for France, you should also then, if you want to, switch to Morocco, because they're both, I guess, as part of your national, like, per people as possible. I don't know. I guess it was almost a weird argument for more like inclusivity in football when it comes to that kind of stuff. I think it's difficult to kind of force people when they're quite young into making quite a big dramatic decision for something that realistically they could change later on down the line. And if you have players that feel like they've been a bit disrespected because of who they are, I look at like sort of Lukaku at Belgium and stuff like that. Why not give him the chance to play for the other team that represents them as a person, right? Rather than trying to sort of be like, no, you're our player, but also don't play for anyone else because we'll make you feel terrible, but also we hate that you're our player. And you see that sometimes with international players. It's very bizarre. But more controversially, just like scrap international football entirely, apart from when the World Cup's on. To be clear, when tournaments are on, fine. And then what you have is a bit of a long break before the tournament starts where they can pick a squad. But like, what's the point of they have like the international friendlies coming up? So I've actually stolen and had 2, I guess, Greg. So I apologise, but it's me and I rant a lot. But when it comes to like international football in general, the team they pick now probably isn't going to be the team they take to the World Cup or the Euros. And it's going to be a friendly against a country that we're not bothered by, and they're not bothered by playing us. So who cares? And what's the point?
No, you're right. Get rid of it completely. Just World Cups, maybe Euros.
It'd be much cheaper to have an international manager on like a 1-year contract than a 4-year retainer, where they're sitting about thinking about the players that they're going to pick now. And quite frankly, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to pick the same players later on down the line, right? So what's the point?
I
Anyway, I guess Sorry,
good
there's
one.
two there. Pick which
That's a
one
good
you
one.
care about.
I agree. On your one with the international reaches, one thing I would say is something that does not irritate me, but irk me a little bit is players that play for a country that they seemingly have very little link with. So I'm thinking Che Adams in Scotland, Che McAdams, and
Yeah.
our very own Mr. Brereton Diaz.
Yeah.
Just
Look,
plonk.
there's
to
somebody
judge?
found out through Football Manager, and I think that is the best use of Football Manager so far.
It seems to me that he's just plonked the Diaz on the end of his name, and maybe that's controversial. I don't know, but and so he can play for Chile because I'm sure he used to be Ben Brereton.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I think when it comes to that, I guess that this is probably the only time we've ever disagreed. Is it's one of those things that why isn't a person allowed to explore multiple parts of their heritage if they've got family and friends from Chile and they're going to get a chance to get into that squad, give them a go. But if all of a sudden he becomes wild and amazing, then he decides he wants to try and play for England, he's also probably as much English as he is Chilean. So it's one of those things where I think that there should be a bit more understanding rather than forcing these people at a young age to commit to a decision which by the time 5 years later they might not feel as much affinity to. But then I guess
kind of agree with what you're saying, Zach, but can you call it celebrating your heritage if someone else found it out about you through a video game?
Well, no. What happened was someone else found it out through the video game and then told the Chilean national team and started a massive campaign to get him, and then he actually got called up. Whereas I think previously he wasn't as bothered.
All right.
So I guess we're both right.
Yeah.
To be fair,
as I said, I'll take it as a controversial one. Put it that way.
I think as well with it, if you've got these nations where like these bigger nations, so us included, where we've got thousands and thousands of players, good international quality players that can't get in a team because obviously the international teams are so strong. It gives it's a double benefit because some of the lesser or smaller countries, should we say, then get better players. But
Yeah, and I think in that way it makes it more competitive, so you don't end up in sort of weird situations when it comes to big international cups where that other teams are going to get walked over. But then also, I guess that the flip side, and I'm contradicting my own point here, is poor little Saudi Arabia when they beat Argentina. That was the biggest thing since sliced bread, and who am I to deny a random Saudi Arabian player his Rolex and Rolls Royce from a Saudi prince?
Quite right. Okay. And I'm gonna cap us off. And I know what you're thinking. How can it be more controversial than in previous episodes calling to ban Pep Guardiola completely or get rid of goalkeepers, which I think was a previous one.
Yes, it was.
Might come back about that one.
And it might not be as controversial as that because I feel like some people might share my opinion. But the thing I would like to put in Room 101 is the Carabao Cup. Now it comes with a caveat. Obviously, it's not a cup that anyone particularly takes seriously until near the end, anyway. And it's exciting if you do well, sure. But I want to caveat it with it's because I have a better alternative that I thought of and wondered why nobody's done. And we have the FA Cup for the cup competition, and we've got the league. Why aren't we doing like a championship between Scotland, Wales, Ireland, and England as our third cup? It would improve all of them. I mean, it would save the Scottish football having to do Celtic and Rangers 3 times a week to draw any money. Like we've heard Wrexham and Cardiff and Swansea all going back to join the Welsh Cup, so they've got half a chance of getting to Europe. The Carabao Cup comes with a European spot. Just make it more interesting. A Scotland or a Wales away day would be a much more interesting prospect than the Cup in its current format.
Is it damaging to lower league clubs that probably would not get as much of a look in, or are you thinking that Eastleigh are going to go and play insert random Welsh town name because I don't want to get it wrong. On an away day, are you thinking like, is it going to work in a similar way? I'm
Yeah, well,
genuinely
I mean,
intrigued by
the
the idea.
EFL Cup, like it's only the EFL teams, right? So it goes down to League Two. You could do the same with sort of Scotland and Wales and go down to their sort of second and third tiers as well. And why not? Think of it, it would be great. Why not go to a lower league team and have like Port Vale versus Port Talbot?
I just like the idea of like the Arsenal team bus has got lost in the Outer Hebrides.
Yeah.
trying to find this backwater Shetland team. They seem to have found a field of sheep instead of an actual football stadium.
That's exactly what I want from football. That is the entertainment levels we're after. Tell me that's not a better
Ireland
idea.
as well?
Yeah, absolutely. If they
To be
wanted,
fair, imagine the scenes of Celtic knocking out Manchester United. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You're right. Maybe you're right, Greg. Maybe you're onto something.
Finally end the age-old debate of where Celtic and Rangers would finish in the Premier League as well, and I'm not going to get started on that because I imagine that will rattle a big old hornet's nest.
And the really upsetting part about it is you would still end up with a similar set of semi-finals and final as we get, where it's still just the same teams in the same positions because...
You're right. There is a lot of money in football, Greg, and a lot of people is focused in a lot of small areas with a lot of big owners.
But that's my entry. The Carabao Cup, but only because my idea is better.
My specifically better league.
So anyone from the FA, Scottish FA, who's listening, wants to hit me up, give us a tweet. I'm down for it. I'm sure that we can come up with some sort of sponsorship. The Global Sports Podcast Network Cup. That's what we'll have. It'll be amazing.
It can't be as bad as the Papa John's Trophy, right? Like.
Okay.
That'll always be something paint for me.
Yeah, that's it. Fantastic. Okay,
You'll never win that.
That's it. 100%. The Saints fans' humour will never cease to be one of my favourite parts of any match day. 100%. Okay, well, that is just about all we've got time for. Thank you for tuning in today and listening to our slightly out there opinions. I hope that it gives you some perspective on where we come from looking at the game of football. And I hope you've enjoyed it. We will be back tomorrow with some more wildcard content. I'm sure we've got something lined up. Until then, Zach, Oscar, thank you for joining me. Thank you everyone for listening. Let us know in the comments or on the socials what you want to get rid of from modern football. I'm sure that there are some equally as interesting opinions as ours floating around out there, so let us know. Hit us up on Twitter or on Blue Sky, on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all of those. Until then, we'll be back tomorrow and we look forward to seeing you then.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.